welcome back to the second part of my OOPG revision video. I will be talking about important stuff that is really required for the test. This is for people who understand most of how you write the code and what you do with the code and how it's written, what the code means. Um, you know, well, basically why it's like that, which should be in a detailed explanation in my 22 long OBG revision video. This is the one that you may have watched before this one. It is now 10:44 p.m. I am so tired, but it is okay because I will be up most of the night trying to study for CMATs. Now, moving along, I have actually typed something out. As you can see, I've just opened up I've just opened up my text document right here. It says OPG writing revision and my NetBeans on my computer. Um, now, as you can see on this side, this that I've highlighted is going to be your main method, and this is going to be your normal class. Okay, so some of you might get confused when you have to write the code. Like, you'd ask Damien, oh, why is this class something logical app? And then this one is class something logical. Is it this your main driver class? This is where your main method is located. So this is where you create all of your objects. This is where you do most of your system.out.println, and this is where you write out all your formulas to assist basically whatever you write in here, right? Like, why are they both classes? That's simple. That's because everything is basically a class in Java. Okay, everything needs a class. Well, at this point, everything needs a class. In this class, you have something called the main method, but in your normal other classes that will be created from your class diagrams, they have just normal methods. Like, this is your constructor method, this is your getter method. If you look, excuse me, if you look real close, they're practically similar. Like, they both have public, as you can see it's highlighted. Of course they don't have static, but they do have return type, which is void or string. Of course, for your main, there is no return type. It just compiles your code and run your code, so there is no return type. And then main, which is the name, just like get name, set name, something logical. It's all the name. And this is actually your arguments. This you do not have to know what it means. It's just something you have to remember, right? So this, everything I've highlighted now, is something that you definitely need to remember how to write. The order is important, and everything else is important as well. The capitals are important. Small letter P. Everything on this line is small letters. Capital. It can't be capital P. By the way, sorry. It has to be small letter P. Everything in here has to be small letter. This is small letter P, small c, and this, okay, this name can have capitals, depending on what they ask you to write. I'll talk more about that later on. But basically, it's small p, small s, small v, small m. Of course, string is capital and then a is small. Now moving on to this one, you'll realize that the package is actually same. Okay, let me just create the main in my Java first, which is called something logical app, because I don't have a name and I'm too lazy to think up of a question to give you guys to do as revision work. But basically something logical app will just work. That's just fine. As you can see, package is the same. Of course, you can import. There's an error here, basically because as you can read, it's unused import because I didn't use it, so it gives me this error. So just ignore that one. public class, something logical app, it's the same public static void main string square brackets args, also known as arguments, which is spelled like this if you don't know how to spell arguments. And public static void main string square brackets arguments. So as you can tell, it's the same. Okay, it's the same. Now to create your normal class, I like to call it your side class, because it's not the class that contains your main. So if it's not main, it's either sub, or I like to refer it as side. Like, you know, side characters in a movie, or like sidekick, you know, sidekick to a hero. You know, they're side. They're important, but they are not what holds everything together. So it's called something logical. Now, whatever you name your class, right here, whatever you name your class, it has to be the same name as whatever is in your what's this called? It has to be the same name as whatever is in your driver class diagram, your class diagram. The first section. Remember, I talked about this section in the other video. The first section. This name is going to be the same as this name. So in Java, it has to be the same as this one. Your class name. Right, as you can see, package something logical app. The reason why it's something logical app is because they're both from this file called something logical app, which happens to be the same name as the class for this one. Happens to be, okay? They don't they are related in a way, but not completely related. Right. So after that, we will, after you've done this, after you've wrote this line and this line, you are done with the first section of your diagram. Moving on to the second section, each line easy way to remember this is each line will produce one private, the word private. Okay, so there's 3 lines here, right? Name, balance, and my array list, right? So it'll be 1, oh shit, 2, 3, like this. 3 privates, right? So you fill it in accordingly. You know, you can either do the crossover method, or another method you can use to remember how to transfer this into something like this is, do you know how Chinese people in the past they read their words from top to bottom, and in their books they read from right to left? Yeah, so you read from right to left. You read out string first, then name. You read out integer first, then balance. You read balance, then you read out array list, then my array list. Of course, the one time I didn't import something useful, it bickers at me. Right, so you are completely done for the second sector now. You have completed the second sector now. So all you have to do is move on to the last sector. Now, last sector is pretty simple. However many lines there is per line, there's going to be one public. Okay, so public, public, public. Okay, it's going to look like this. Now, don't get confused, because it may look like this. String, then apple, cha, fruits. It may look like this, but this is still one line. Okay, it could look like this. Okay, but this is still one line. Okay, understand? This is just one line. Right. So for however many lines, there's going to be however many public. That's the easiest way to remember it. Now the first line in your third you can't see it, but I'm actually using my hands and have a 1 up. It's a bit stupid, never mind, forget it. For every line in your sector, you're gonna have one public. This is the easiest way to remember how to write your class diagrams. Please just memorize this method if you cannot remember anything else. Okay, one line, one public, section 3. One line, one private, section 2. Simple enough, right? So for your first one, it's always going to be your constructor. Your constructor is always going to be the same name as your class, always. So it's going to be something logical brackets, right? So like, you know, like Chinese people, you read from right to left. So it's gonna be, oh shit, this is actually wrong. This is name string, right? String. Is it? Oh, sorry, I feel stupid now. Yeah, name string. Yeah, name string, balance, integers, al, array list, right? I look stupid now, but that's okay. I don't mind looking stupid. I prepared my notes wrongly. It was pretty much in a rush. But basically, you read from right to left, right? So string name, integer, balance. Oops, sorry. Integer balance, array list, al. You don't put it back there. What you want to do is you want to do this. Now, okay, the reason why I put semicolon behind each public is because if you don't, this happens. You see, I pressed enter and it just creates this like large amount of space that's useless to me, and I hate formatting it back to normal. So I put this, but normally you don't have it. You don't have it. It's public something logical. It's public return type if it's not constructor, but if it is the constructor, you don't have the return type. The name of your method, your arguments, and then you have your curly brackets. Right, so after that, normally it's this dot name equals name. Now the reason why you have this dot name is to differentiate. This, whatever is highlighted here, points to this, but this points to this. If you remove this, it's gonna cause some problems, like assigned to itself. The assigned value will be used. This is never used. What it basically means is later on in my app, if I were to type in something logical a equals news something logical Damien 100 my array list, right? If I were to type in something like this, it would basically mean Damien equals to Damien. Like, what the shit? That makes no sense, right? Right, it makes no sense. So you're gonna have to put in this dot name if whatever this is the same as this. Okay? If it's the same. This dot balance equals balance. Right. Now, the next line. This is the best. My array list equals al. Now you see, I don't need to put this because this is obviously different from this. Obviously. So it's gonna be able to tell the difference. So once you're done with that, you can move on to the next line. Right. So get name string. As I've probably said from previously before, your getter actually gets its return type depending on the attribute type. The attribute name has a string type, right? So the return type is clearly going to be string. The name is going to be get name, and there is nothing in its arguments. It's curly bracket, enter, you create the other curly bracket, and then you return name. Now this name refers to this one. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? This name refers to this one. But why can I type name without this dot in front of it now? Well, that's simple because there is no other name in this one entire method. So this can only, by process of elimination, there is no other, like, there's no other value or container that has the same name as this. So by process of elimination, it points to this directly. Whereas for this one, in this method, this is one block. Okay, you have to think of this as one block. There is already something called name, and outside of this block, there's also something called name. They are both strings, so it's gonna get confused, right? Okay, so you understand it so far? Good. If you don't, just, you know, replay the video. Now, for set name, right? After the smooth brackets, there is nothing behind it. Nothing. See all this empty space? Yeah, this is all empty space. So if it is empty space, you know immediately that the return type is void. And of course, after that, it's set name. And just follow whatever is in the brackets. It's string s. Now, this they will definitely put it as s bracket strings. So the way you read it, as you know by now, I've repeated it several times. You read from right to left. Brackets, and then name equals s. It's that simple. By process of elimination, the only name that this can point to is the one outside of this block, and this s refers to this s. So you want this name to become whatever you set. Understand? Good. Now, another thing you will probably need to know is this array list. Something logical. My array list, of course, equals new array lists. Now you can just skip the second angled brackets if you want. If you can't really remember, like I said in the previous video, just please follow array list, something logical, the referencing name, new array list, and then just copy this behind here as well, these two brackets, and then code it, right? So now I've created my array list. I want to create something logical. A equals new. Now I can type out the whole thing, or I can not type it out, but I will type out the whole thing. I need a name, because, you know, I'm clearly so logical. I will give myself an average IQ, which is 100. Yeah, 100 is average. I don't have a very high IQ. I have a rather above average EQ though. And then the last one is we need an AL, which is my AL. Semicolon. And you're done. You are done. That is all you really needed to do. Okay? So the reference name for my object is called A. And my array list is called my AL. So say I want to put something into my array list. So I have to call my array list, right? I have to call it first. I have to say which one I want to add something into. So I want to add something into my AL. And my AL dot add something logical A. It even types it for me, but of course this is a written test. It won't write it for you. You have to know this yourself. Yourself. Now, I've actually written a list of important things to remember, which is how to write this out. And let me just get rid of the rest. Right. The important things to remember are these. You have to remember how to write this and what it's for. How to write these and what it's for. How to write these, which is for the main method. And how to write these, which is for your other side method, side class. This is for your main method, your main class, and this is for your other methods, side class. Right, I did not go through file IO because I feel that it should be something that can be easily gone through and easily digested tomorrow, because this video is pretty long.